In this video, I'll be going over how to complete the Form W-9 Request for Taxpayer Identification Number and Certification. As the title indicates, you have been hired by someone to complete services on behalf of their business. They are asking you to certify that the tax identification number you are providing is correct and complete. So let's get started. This video is going to be about how to fill out this form if you are a single member LLC. In other words, you have a business, it's just you, and you have filed the articles with your state that you are a single member LLC, which in the eyes of the IRS is considered a disregarded entity. That's important for filling this form out. If you're a different entity structure, for example, an individual or sole proprietor, if you're a C Corp, if you're an S Corp, if you're any type of partnership, check out my other videos on how to fill out this form as those entity structures. All right, let's dig into the Form W-9 for a single member LLC. All right, in this example, my name is Joe Smith. I operate Joe's Plumbing LLC. We are a single member LLC in the state of Tennessee. So the first line, what is your name as shown on your income tax return? So again, a single member LLC is a disregarded entity in the eyes of the IRS. So what you're going to want to do here is use the name as shown in your tax return. Well, this disregarded entity doesn't have a tax return. You report that information on Schedule C of your Form 1040, which is your individual or personal tax return. So technically, the name as shown on your tax return is your actual name. So my name is Joseph Smith. That's the name on page 1 of the Form 1040. Line 2 is my business name. And this is where I put the disregarded entity name. As it says, number 2, business name / disregarded entity name, if different from above. So obviously then if it's not different from line 1's name, you don't need to add that in line 2. Joe's Plumbing LLC. Great. And so next, which box do we pick? Check the appropriate box for federal tax classification of the person whose name is entered on line 1. All right. So we know that Joe's Plumbing LLC is a single member LLC. So we're going to select that box. Now be careful here because check out the box right below, limited liability company. Well, I operate an LLC, a limited liability company. Well, if I'm not taking my time filling this out, I might check that box or check that box as well as the first box. But we can see if we read here, individual / sole proprietor or single member LLC. All right, so we checked the first box and we're only going to check that first box, not the limited liability company box below. That's reserved for corporations, S corporations, and partnerships. Great, so we'll keep going. Exemptions, I'm going to skip that. I've never seen a single member LLC that is subject to some sort of exemption code or FATCA code. Right, next is your address to which you'd like to receive your 1099 and other correspondence from this customer. Keep in mind, so if they're going to be paying you via a physical payment, for example, a check, they're likely going to use this address to mail that check to you. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have this as a mailing address for you. All right, I'm going to use Nashville since that's where I am. I don't even know if that's the real address. So this requester's name and address is optional field. You can put this in. I'd be very impressed if I received a W-9 from you and you had my information here as the requester name and address. But keep in mind too, if you do that, just know that you're going to have to be filling out this W-9 for every single customer you have. And that might become a little arduous or ineffective. So I would recommend not filling that out and just having a blanket W-9 that you can send out securely to folks as they hire you. So I'm going to leave that blank in this example. Line 7, we don't have an account number, and that's also an optional box. So let's leave that blank. All right, this is where it gets a little tricky for you as a single member LLC. Let's read the instructions for the Part 1 Taxpayer Identification Number. Enter your TIN in the appropriate box. The TIN provided must match the name given on line 1 to avoid backup withholding. So remember, line 1 is Joseph Smith. So it's the taxpayer identification number associated with Joseph Smith, not necessarily associated with my single member LLC or disregarded entity. All right. So for individuals, this is generally your social security number. However, for a resident alien, sole proprietor, or disregarded entity, see the instructions for part 1 later. So let's jump down to those instructions just so we can get into that. Okay, here we are. Enter your TIN in the appropriate box. Okay, let's jump down to, okay, here we go. If you are a single member LLC that is disregarded as an entity separate from its owner, enter the owner's social security number or EIN, employer identification number, if the owner has a separate one. This is important. Do not enter the disregarded entity's EIN. If the LLC is classified as a corporation or partnership, enter the entity's EIN, which isn't applicable to your circumstance. So again, just to summarize this, for a single member LLC that's a disregarded entity, you're going to enter the owner's social security number, unless Joseph Smith has an EIN, not Joe's Plumbing has an EIN, Joseph Smith has an EIN. In this example, Joseph Smith doesn't have an EIN. His business, Joe's Plumbing, does. So following the instructions in part 1, we're going to enter Joseph Smith's social security number. Okay. Obviously a fictitious social security number. Okay, so we have that entered. Great. Next is our certification. We're basically saying that this information is accurate and complete. So under the penalties of perjury, this number is accurate. I'm not subject to backup withholding. I'm a U.S. citizen or a U.S. person. If you have questions about that, check out the instructions below the Form W-9. In number 4, the FATCA codes, I'm going to disregard that just because, again, I haven't seen that and I'm not going over the exemptions or box 4 in this example video. All right, so you're going to sign this form. You're going to date it, the date of signature. Keep in mind, your social security number is a very secure piece of personal information. There's a lot of harm that can be done if this number was in the hands of someone with malicious intent to use that number against you to say, open up credit accounts, create a false identity, use your information on the dark web, etc. So you want to make sure that you trust whoever you're giving this information to. So keep that in mind. Also, think about how you're delivering this information to someone. So you don't want to email anything with your social security number on it. I recommend having a secure online cloud portal that you use to transfer this information. Even if you think you have the best standards when it comes to your internet protocol and your information security on your end, you don't know what they are doing on the receiving end, which could leave you vulnerable with your social security number. So again, just a tip on using your social security number and how to avoid having a malicious situation occur using your personal identification number. Another good reason to scan this into your portal is you can just have it quick and at the ready. Anytime you're hired by someone, you can have this ready to go and send to them. Great, that's the video for now. Today we went over the Form W-9 for a single member LLC. Line 1 is our name as indicated on the tax return. Line 2 is our business name. Line 3 is where we check the box for single member LLC. Lines 5 and 6 are where we want our mail sent. Part 1 is where we add our social security number to match our taxpayer identification number for what's reflected in box 1, our name as reflected on the tax return. And then part 2 is where we sign certifying that this information is accurate and we are legal to do business in the United States. Okay, that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please help me out by subscribing to my channel, liking this video. That goes a long way in the YouTube's algorithm, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks.